The thing is, I did not flirt because I wanted to destroy my husband's promotion dinner. I flirted because every time he turned away, someone finally looked at me like I was not just the wife beside the rising man. 2 menus, 1 private room, no crime in enjoying attention. Then his business partner leaned across the table and told my husband he deserved a better wife. By Monday morning, the promotion folder was still unopened. My name is Valentina Sorrento. I was 36, and I worked as a senior client experience strategist for luxury restaurants and private hotels. The thing is, I understood placement. 2 menus, 1 glass. No crime in knowing where attention should go. I made wealthy people feel chosen for a living, so of course I noticed when my own husband stopped choosing me where anyone could see it. That Thursday evening, the office lobby smelled of white flowers, floor polish, and the last coffee from the service bar. I had spent 3 hours teaching junior staff how to read a table before the guests spoke. The right chair mattered. The first pour mattered. Timing mattered. People only called these things small when they were already getting them. Elliot came through the revolving doors holding a silver folder under one arm. My husband was 39, calm in his dark coat, with that careful face he wore when he had good news and wanted to deliver it properly. He told me the partners wanted to discuss a senior operations role over dinner. I smiled because wives smile at promotion news. Of course we do. The silver folder looked expensive in his hands. Thick paper, sharp corners. A future pressed flat between covers. He looked proud. Not loud proud, but proud enough that the lobby seemed to lean toward him. I hated that I saw it before I felt happy. Years before, we had a Friday game. We picked 1 new restaurant every week and rated the service like private inspectors. Elliot judged timing, water refills, whether the server interrupted too much. I judged table energy, lighting, how the room made me feel before the first drink. Back then, we laughed over menus until the waiters started watching us. That had been ours. Later, in our apartment hallway, Elliot placed the folder on the console table and asked softly what had changed between us. Not what was wrong. Not who had my attention. What had changed. His voice was gentle, but I heard a report request. I heard a man who could manage a factory schedule trying to manage my mood. I told him nothing had changed. I said work had been heavy and clients had been difficult. The thing is, both things were true enough to hide behind. He touched the edge of the silver folder once, then left it on the table. My phone lit up beside it. Bianca had sent a message saying promotion dinners were dangerous because men became important and wives became decoration. I smiled before I answered. Elliot saw the smile. He did not ask about it. He only looked at the folder, then at me, like he was trying to understand which one of us had moved. By Saturday evening, the hotel bar near my office smelled of lemon peel, warm bread, and expensive smoke from the little glass candles on every table. Bianca was already there when I arrived, sitting with one leg crossed and her red nails around a thin wine glass. She had been divorced for 11 months and still talked about freedom like a country she had escaped to, not a place where she sometimes sat alone. The thing is, Bianca liked me sharp. She said sharp women made boring rooms honest. 2 glasses, 1 corner table, no audience except the bartender pretending not to listen. She asked whether Elliot was already practicing humble speeches for the partners. I told her he had been careful all week, checking times, confirming dress code, reading the dinner email twice. Bianca smiled and said that men became unbearable when companies finally handed them proof that they mattered. I told her not to make it ugly. Of course I laughed. Then she asked what I was wearing. I said I had not decided. She said I should wear the red dress, the one that made people remember I was not included with the promotion package. That phrase sat in me. Included with the promotion package. I wanted to say Elliot had never treated me like that. Not openly. He brought me coffee when my events ran late. He learned which table shape made me anxious. He remembered that I hated being seated with my back to a door. He cared in practical ways. Steady ways. Useful ways. But useful care can start feeling like staff service if nobody ever looks up and says you are the reason the room works. My phone buzzed while Bianca was ordering another drink. The message came through Elliot's thread, a forwarded note from Graham Ellery. Graham was Elliot's business partner. 44, polished, serious, one of those men who looked relaxed because other people moved quickly around him. He had written the formal dinner details, then added one personal line about how my handling of the Mercer Hotel event had set the tone for everyone. I read it twice. Bianca leaned over and asked if that was him. Not Elliot. Him. I said it was a professional note. She said professional men did not usually add praise unless they wanted the praise to be remembered. 2 words. 1 screen. No crime. At home, the apartment kitchen smelled of soup Elliot had kept warm. He had set out 2 bowls and folded a cloth napkin beside mine because he knew I disliked paper towels at dinner. The silver promotion folder was on the counter beside his laptop. He asked if I had eaten. Wrong question. Kind, maybe. But wrong. I said I had eaten at the bar. I had not. He looked at my face and then at my phone. He said, specific and factual, that Graham's message had changed my expression. He said he had seen the same thing at the last company reception when Graham complimented my event work and I laughed longer than I had laughed at Elliot's promotion announcement. 1 named incident. 1 real question. What he meant was that he had seen me drift towards someone else's attention. What I heard was that he had started measuring my face. I told him he was turning one look into an investigation because he could not handle being less interesting than his own opportunity. The words came out smooth. That was one of my talents. I could make a sentence sound like polish even when it cut. Elliot set his spoon down. Not hard. Carefully. The soup kept moving in the bowl after his hand left it. He said he was not asking about Graham to control me. He said he was asking why my face had been easier with another man than with him. That should have slowed me down. It did not. The thing is, when someone names exactly what you are doing, you can either answer or punish the accuracy. I chose the second. I told him that maybe if he wanted my face to change, he should stop treating desire like a scheduled maintenance item. I said he remembered reservations and allergies and parking, but sometimes forgot there was a woman sitting beside him. That part was true enough to hurt us both. He looked at me for a long second. Then he asked if I wanted him at the dinner as my husband or as proof that he still wanted me publicly. I heard accusation. I heard him making my needs sound theatrical. So I told him not to turn the promotion dinner into one of his emotional audits. He took both bowls to the sink. Mine was still full. He wrapped it and put it in the fridge without eating his own. That was the consequence. Dinner did not become a fight. It became 2 bowls cooling in different places. The next day, Mara texted him while I was sitting beside him on the couch. Elliot's sister rarely sent casual messages. She asked if I was all right because the last few jokes had started to sound sharp. He did not hide the screen. He only turned it off and placed the phone face down on his knee. I asked if his sister was monitoring me now. He said she cared about both of us. I said caring often looked like judging when it came from his family. He did not defend Mara. He only got up and checked the time for Monday's meeting. At work, Bianca came to my desk with a coffee and asked if the careful husband had noticed the red dress yet. I said he had noticed everything except the point. She smiled like that was proof of something. Then Daphne from Client Services walked past, paused long enough to hear Bianca say test, and kept going without joining us. Daphne was the kind of friend who wanted every table to stay polite. Her silence was not judgment yet. It was distance putting on its coat. By Monday morning, the red dress was hanging on the bedroom door. Elliot saw it before work. He said it was beautiful. His eyes went back to his watch after he said it. There it was again. Compliment, then schedule. Desire, then timing. I told myself the dinner would show him what happened when a woman stopped waiting to be noticed. The private dining room at Calder and Finch smelled of charred steak, red wine, and lemon polish. Heavy velvet curtains separated us from the main restaurant, making the room feel important before anyone had said anything important. The table was long, dark wood, with white plates spaced perfectly and small brass lamps casting warm circles over the menus. The thing is, private rooms are never private. They only make people braver. 2 menus, 1 glass, no crime in knowing who controls the table energy. Elliot sat beside me with the silver promotion folder near his plate. He had not opened it. Graham sat across from us, close enough that his voice could lower and still reach me. The other partners arranged themselves with the ease of people used to being served first. Bianca was near the far end because I had asked for her to be included as my professional contact. Daphne sat beside her, quiet, with her napkin folded too neatly. Nora, the senior waitress, moved around the room like she had known all of us for years. She did not interrupt. She appeared at the exact moment a glass emptied or a plate shifted. I respected that kind of service. It meant she could read a room before the room lied to itself. At first, everything looked clean. Graham praised Elliot's systems work. The partners spoke about expansion. Elliot answered with calm details, timelines, staffing pressures, risk points. He was good. That was the part nobody could take from him. He knew the company from underneath, where things actually broke. And still, while he spoke, I watched Graham watching me. When Elliot turned toward the operations director, Graham asked if I always chose rooms this well. I said I only improved what was already worth improving. He smiled like I had given him something just for him. Elliot turned back. I lifted my water glass. Nothing had happened. A little later, Elliot turned again to answer a question about plant scheduling. I leaned forward and told Graham that men who spoke less often seemed more interesting because people had to work for them. Graham asked if that was a compliment. I told him it depended on his timing. 2 plates. 1 candle. No crime. His hand rested near his wine glass. My fingers touched the stem of that glass when I reached for the salt, though there was salt near my own plate. It was small enough to deny and clear enough to feel. Graham noticed. Of course he did. Men like Graham lived from small permissions. Across the table, Bianca smiled at first. She had wanted this version of me, the one who made a room turn. Daphne looked down at her menu, though dinner had already been ordered. Elliot turned back once and saw Graham lowering his eyes from my face. He said nothing. His hand moved to the edge of the silver folder, not opening it, just touching the corner. The room kept going. That was the dangerous thing. Public damage rarely stops the music. The waiter pours wine. Someone asks about quarterly targets. A fork taps a plate. The body keeps doing table behavior while the marriage starts leaving through the side door. Every time Elliot turned away, Graham gave me a little more attention. Not enough to be named. Enough to be known. He asked about my work. He said I made service sound like strategy. He said Elliot was lucky to have someone who understood powerful rooms. I said Elliot understood systems better than rooms. The sentence was not loud, but people heard it. Graham smiled, smaller this time. He enjoyed heat, but only if the flame stayed in someone else's hand. Nora came in with the next course. She placed plates without looking directly at anyone, but her face had changed. Not shock. Service professionals do not waste expressions. It was recognition. She saw the pattern. Elliot turns. I lean. Graham smiles. Elliot returns. I sit back. For 1 second, that almost embarrassed me. Almost. Then Elliot answered another question without looking at me, and the old anger returned. The thing is, a wife can sit beside a man on the biggest night of his career and still feel like a chair. Dessert came late. The room had warmed from wine and meat and careful laughter. Elliot had barely touched his second glass. Graham had touched his twice and left fingerprints on the stem. I knew because I had been looking. Nora cleared the plates near me, then paused by Elliot. She said, indirectly and with a tired service smile, that maybe the gentleman across the table should help him find a better wife if he had taken so much of her attention tonight. The sentence was meant as a pressure release, maybe a joke, Maybe a warning dressed like one. It did not release anything. The room closed around it. Bianca's smile disappeared. Daphne stopped moving her fork. One partner looked at his wine. Another looked at Elliot. Graham gave one small laugh, too smooth, too fast. Then he said that Elliot probably did deserve better than someone who needed to be noticed this badly. There are sentences that do not sound violent and still leave a mark. Elliot looked at Graham first, not at me, at him. His face did not change in the useful way. No anger I could call jealousy. No raised voice I could call insecurity. He only looked at the man who had just turned my flirtation into public pity. Then Elliot looked at me. Then he looked at the silver folder. He closed it, though it had never been open. His hand pressed the cover flat and slid it beside his untouched wine glass. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Nora stepped back. Her eyes moved once toward me, then away. I wanted to say it was only dinner energy. I wanted to laugh. I wanted the room to understand that I had been in control until the waitress made it crude. Instead, I lifted my glass and found it empty. That was the crack. Small. Visible only to me. I had wanted Graham's attention to prove I was still powerful, but the moment he spoke, I became material for his cleverness. Not chosen. Used. The door opened onto that truth for one breath. Then I closed it. I told myself Elliot had made the room heavy with his quiet. I told myself Nora had overstepped. I told myself Graham had only said the ugly thing because everyone was already thinking Elliot deserved a wife who acted softer. Near the coat check, Elliot asked quietly if I understood what had happened. He did not raise his voice. The quiet was the point. I told him he was making a comment from a waitress into a moral hearing. He said I had not flirted behind his back. I had flirted in the space where I thought his dignity could not reach. I said he sounded rehearsed. His mouth moved once, then stopped. When we left, Nora stood near the service station writing something on the back of a receipt. I saw the black pen moving. I told myself service staff wrote notes all night. Outside, Bianca hugged me too quickly and said nothing about fire. Daphne left in a rideshare without asking if I needed a lift. Elliot drove home in silence, the silver folder flat on his lap. The kitchen smelled like burnt coffee on Saturday morning. Elliot had made one cup and left the machine on too long. For 6 years he had made 2 cups without asking. Mine was always smaller, less bitter, with a little cinnamon when we had it. That morning my mug stayed in the cabinet. The thing is, homes do not break loudly at first. 1 mug missing. 1 chair pushed in. No crime if you refuse to read the room. Elliot stood at the counter in a grey shirt, the silver folder beside the toaster. His hair was still damp. He looked like he had slept, which annoyed me because I had not. I had spent the night replaying Nora's sentence and Graham's reply, changing the room in my head until I was less exposed inside it. He said he was not talking about one dinner only. Then he named the pattern. The jokes about him being practical. The way I became brighter around powerful men. The way I treated his calm like a flaw when it had paid half the bills and carried most of the hard weeks. The dinner. Nora's comment. Graham's sentence. My silence afterward. He did not list them like a prosecutor. That would have been easier to fight. He listed them like a man finally reading labels on boxes he had been carrying too long. I told him he was making himself the wounded hero because everyone always believed the calm person first. He turned toward me then. His face was tired in a plain way. Not dramatic. Not useful for my version. He said he had been proud of the promotion until I made it feel like he had been promoted into his own humiliation. The sentence sat on the counter between the coffee machine and the folder. That was his vulnerable moment. Simply sad. No strategy. No threat. He was not asking me to fix the whole marriage in that second. He was asking me to understand that I had touched his work, not just his pride. What he meant was that I had taken the place where he had finally been seen and made him feel disposable there. What I heard was that he wanted me to be grateful for being allowed near his success. So I said he had no idea what it was like to stand beside a man while every room congratulated him for things a woman made easier. I said he only wanted emotions when they proved he had been wronged. He did not answer. He opened the silver folder. Inside was the promotion acceptance page. His signature had been there before. I had seen it Thursday, a neat dark line under his printed name. Now that page was gone. In its place sat a blank copy. My fingers tightened around the counter edge. For 1 second I saw it. Not all of it, but enough. He was not punishing me. He was protecting the one part of his career I had not yet dragged under the dinner table. The role had been his. The folder had been his. The room should have been his. I had treated it like a stage where I could prove I still drew eyes. The truth came close without using words. Then I shut it away. I told myself men loved making grand silent gestures because they looked noble and cost nothing. I told myself he had removed the signature to make me feel guilty. I told myself this was still about his inability to bear another man noticing me. Mara arrived at 10 with a paper bag of breakfast rolls. She had a key because Elliot had given her 1 year ago for emergencies, back when I liked that his family was practical. She paused in the doorway when she saw the folder on the counter and the two of us standing apart. She asked why the promotion folder looked like evidence instead of good news. I said it was not her business. Too fast, too sharp. Mara placed the bag on the table and said she was not here to attack me. She said she knew Elliot could disappear into competence and make people feel like they had to translate their own pain into tasks before he would hear it. That was fair. That was why it irritated me. Then she said I had taken something real from him in front of people who measured him for a living. I told her families always protected their own version of things. She said she was trying to protect the part of my marriage that might still have a door. Elliot looked at her then, and something passed between them. Not a plan. A tired recognition. I hated being outside it. After Mara left, I tried a different tactic. Controlled softness. The thing is, fake peace can look generous if you fold it correctly. I made tea. I placed it near Elliot's home office door and said I understood the dinner had felt uncomfortable. I said Graham's comment had been unfair to both of us. I said I should have stopped it sooner. Not stopped myself. Stopped it. Elliot looked at the tea, then at me. He asked if I had told Graham that. I said Graham was not the point. Elliot said Graham had become the point when I let him speak for the room. The tea went cold on the small table outside his office. By afternoon, I texted Bianca that everyone had lost their mind over one dinner. She answered after 40 minutes, not 4 seconds. She wrote that maybe I should give it a day. No joke. No flame. No little red dress comment. 2 words. 1 delay. No safety. Daphne did not answer at all when I sent her a message asking if the dinner had seemed that bad. I saw the little red mark and stared at it until the screen dimmed. That evening, Elliot carried the silver folder into his home office. He had never locked that door. Not once. He worked with confidential company files and still left the door open because he said closed doors made apartments feel smaller. This time, I heard the lock turn. 1 click. No speech. I told myself he was being theatrical. I told myself he wanted me to hear it. But the hallway changed after that sound. The office was no longer a room in our home. It was a place where he was keeping something from me because I had taught him that anything visible could become material. I stood outside the door for longer than I needed to. My hand stayed near the handle, not touching it. Inside, no papers moved. No chair creaked. Nothing. His silence had stopped waiting for me. By Monday morning, the lobby of Elliot's company looked colder than I remembered. The floor was pale stone, the reception desk too clean, the plants too green to be real. People moved through security with badges and coffee cups, already speaking in low work voices. I had dressed carefully, not in the red dress but in cream trousers and a black coat. Supportive, polished, reasonable. The thing is, I believed presentation could still save the story. 1 lobby, 2 elevators. No crime in arriving before people finished deciding what happened. I told myself I was there to support Elliot when he met the partners. In the honest part of my mind, the part I kept away from the light, I knew I was there to control the first public version of the dinner. Graham came through the side entrance while I was waiting near the visitor chairs. He wore a navy suit and carried a leather folder. His eyes reached me, stopped for half a second, then moved past me like I was a person he had once met in a lift. I stood. He did not. Felix Ward from HR stepped out of the elevator and greeted him. Graham walked in beside him, speaking softly. No smile for me, no private look. No trace of the man who had made me feel like the table had turned toward me. That was when I understood his agenda, though I did not have that word. Graham liked risk only while it belonged to someone else. Elliot arrived 5 minutes later. He had the silver folder under his arm. He looked formal, not angry. His tie was straight. His coat was buttoned. He had become the version of himself that companies trusted and wives could not easily reach. I told him I was there because I wanted us to handle this together. He said he was going to refuse the promotion. The words were not loud. That made them harder to push away. He said accepting it now would attach his career to a room where his wife and future business partner made him look disposable. He said he could survive losing the title more easily than performing gratitude for it. I said he was letting one dinner control his future. He said I had already let one dinner enter it. People passed behind him. One woman slowed, then kept walking. The lobby was not private, and that was why I had chosen it. I thought the open space would make him careful. I forgot careful was already his language. I gave him the one true thing I had. I said he only became emotional after the room finally saw what I had been missing at home. He did not deny it. That made the sentence heavier. He said I was right that he had been late to some kinds of love. He said he had managed too much and named too little. He said he had made competence stand in for presence because competence was the only language he trusted when things were unstable. For one moment, I had him. Not as victory, as truth. Then he said I had taken that loneliness to the cruelest audience available. There was nothing easy to say after that. Still, I tried. I told him I would not be made into the villain because he had finally found emotional language at work. I said he wanted to use shame as a ladder back to dignity. He opened the silver folder and showed me the acceptance page, still blank. He said if I could tell HR and the partners plainly that Graham had participated and that I used the dinner to humiliate him, then we could begin from truth. Final offer. Clean. One statement. Not forgiveness. Not even rescue. A place to stand that was not a lie. I heard a trap. I heard a request for me to destroy my name so he could keep his. I heard every old room where women were asked to be softer so men could recover. I told him I would not destroy myself publicly so he could feel respected. His eyes closed once, not long. A blink with weight. Then he said he would handle everything properly now. No legal words, no threat. That was why it landed. Properly from Elliot meant folders, dates, witnesses, sequence. It meant no more arguments in kitchens. It meant I had lost access to the part of him that still negotiated. I reached for my phone because I needed a witness who belonged to me. I texted Bianca from the lobby. I wrote that she had to tell me I was not insane. The read mark appeared. Nothing else did. One sentence, one gap, no explanation. I put the phone into my coat pocket before Elliot could see me looking at it. Felix came back through the elevator doors. Graham was not with him. Felix asked Elliot if he was ready. His voice was neutral, the kind of neutral that made me feel uninvited in a place where I had planned to perform support. Elliot nodded. I said he should not go in there angry. He looked at me and said he was not angry anymore. That was worse. As he walked toward the HR wing, the silver folder under his arm, Mara appeared from the side corridor. She must have come through the employee entrance with him. Her face did not accuse me. It simply did not soften. I asked if she was part of this now. She said Elliot had asked for someone to sit with him while he said no to something he had wanted for years. That sentence should have opened the door again. It should have shown me the scale of what I had done. Instead, I told myself Mara had always wanted to be the good woman in his life, the one who understood him better than his wife. Mara looked at my face and seemed to read the thought. She did not answer it. She only followed him. I stood in the lobby with my visitor badge clipped to my coat. The badge said my name in black print but not my place. Spouse, guest, problem. The room had not decided yet. Daphne finally answered my message at noon. She said the dinner had made people uncomfortable and that she hoped Elliot was all right. Not both of us. Elliot. The table had shifted. I walked back to my office instead of taking a car. The air outside was cold enough to make my eyes water, but I did not let that become a story. At work, Bianca was on a call when I passed her desk. She saw me, lifted one finger like she would come find me later, and then did not. All afternoon, I watched my phone. Graham sent nothing. Bianca sent nothing. Elliot sent nothing. By evening, the apartment hallway was quiet. The home office door was open now, but not because he had softened. The desk was clear except for one neat stack of papers and a pen lined parallel to the edge. The silver folder was gone. Elliot was in the bedroom packing a small bag. Not rushing, not angry. Socks, charger, 2 shirts, shaving kit. I asked where he was going. He said Mara's guest room. I told him leaving would make this harder to fix. He said fixing was not the same as continuing. That sentence did not ask for my answer. After he left, I stood in the hallway where the folder had first sat on the console table. The space looked too clean without it. His silence was no longer hurt. It was scheduled. The HR conference room on Wednesday afternoon had glass walls, a long grey table, and a coffee machine that smelled burnt before anyone touched it. I arrived expecting clarification. That was the word I used in my head. Clarification sounded cleaner than consequence. Elliot was already there. Mara sat beside him. Felix Ward sat across the table with a formal file, his hands folded on top of it. The silver promotion folder lay beside Elliot, unopened. Felix asked me to sit. I did. He named the document without warming his voice. It was a notice of internal workplace investigation and formal ethics complaint regarding conduct at a promotion dinner involving a senior partner, a promotion candidate, and a spouse. The promotion review would be suspended until interviews with all dinner witnesses were completed within 10 business days. I picked up the water glass in front of me, then put it down without drinking. My thumb left a wet mark on the side. Felix explained the evidence in order. Nora's written statement from the restaurant, the service receipt note, the private dining seating chart, Graham's HR statement, Elliot's refusal memo, no miracle proof. No hidden recording from nowhere. Only the room I had made, written back in professional language. I said the dinner had been misread. I said harmless table energy had become a jealous husband's narrative. Felix looked at the file and said the issue was not jealousy. He said the issue was whether a senior partner compromised a promotion process and whether my conduct helped create a public situation that affected an employee's professional standing. Neutral. True. Impossible to decorate. Graham's departure came in one clean line. He submitted a written statement saying my attention had made him uncomfortable, then refused direct contact and moved all communication through HR. He had turned his own sentence into concern. He had turned me into exposure. Afterward, I moved into a short-term apartment near my office, where the hallway smelled of old carpet and someone else's cooking. The shared expenses became a written temporary agreement, and Elliot's suspended bonus stopped being a future I could count inside our numbers. Mara stopped answering me directly. Daphne avoided every group dinner, and Bianca became busy whenever I asked to meet. Graham spoke only through HR, and later told people the dinner had been misread by everyone involved. My own employer removed me from a luxury client project connected to Elliot's company before the first interview was even scheduled. The thing is, I thought attention was proof that I had not disappeared inside my marriage. I thought being wanted across a table meant I still had power. What it cost me was the one man who had been quietly building a life where I did not have to perform to be kept. The silver promotion folder stayed unopened on the dining table for 3 days. I made him choose between being promoted and being humiliated, and he chose not to take me with him.